Hey guys, so today's episode we're going to be talking about how to succeed in marriage. So first of all, I want to talk about what is success in marriage? What do we consider a successful marriage? A lot of people will tell me, or I used to think this a lot, a successful marriage is when I make my spouse happy. I make my wife happy. If she's happy, I'm winning. The phrase happy wife, happy life kind of defines that for us, right? If I make my wife happy, that's how I succeed in marriage. That's how I'm going to be happy. That's how she's going to be happy. We'll all be happy, right? Common belief to love and to be loved. It's another common definition of what a successful marriage is. Having good communication, being able to really understand each other at a deep level. Being able to compromise, work things out, work through conflict. That's one of the big goals people come in to see me about is, how can we work through these conflicts that we have. Prioritizing each other, feeling like you're the most important person in the world to that other person, and also putting them as the most important person in the world to you. Having a great sex life, enjoying that intimate connection with each other. Compromise I put on there again, but it comes up a fair amount. So these are all great things, okay, to have these things in your marriage, to feel happy, to feel like you're important to each other. All that is huge and it's great. So when you have that mindset, your mission becomes to make these things happen, right? So, and the problem with all these definitions is it really depends on what your spouse's reaction is to you, okay? So if we go back here and we look at make my wife happy, okay, if I'm successful now, she has to be happy, right? To be loved, okay, to be successful now, I not only have to love her, but she has to love me back, right? And then I'm successful. So I'm going to constantly be trying to make her love me and show love to me in the way that I want. Like, the 5 love languages. If I'm successful, my wife will show me love in my love languages, and that's success. Communication, right? She's going to express to me, I'm going to express to her, and we'll have that sort of win together. Prioritizing each other. I need to be the most important person to her to be successful. If I'm not the most important to her, if I'm not the most important person to her, I'm not successful. So I hope you're kind of seeing how much your success now is depending on that other person. And so, it's based on their feelings, their actions, what they do, okay? How did they prioritize you? What did they do for your birthday? Did they really show they cared or not, right? So when you have this mindset, and that's how I'm going to succeed in marriage, is to make my wife or make my husband feel or do certain things, then that's your goal. I'm going to make my wife happy. I'm going to make her, have sex with me when I want. I'm going to make her, show me love in the way that I want. Feel and do certain things. Okay. So my big goal, or how I would define success in marriage for a long time, was to say, okay, I'm going to make my wife feel happy. In return for that, she's going to appreciate me. She's going to show love to me. She's going to prioritize me. She's going to have sex with me. Okay. And that's how I define successful marriage. For a lot of wives, they're going to say, and I surveyed 500 wives and they kind of told me these things. So to have my husband remember me, to respect me, to appreciate me, to do the little things for me, call me during the day, remember anniversaries, do all that, help around the house, okay? So again, if that's your definition of successful marriage, so much of it depends on your spouse that you're going to be always trying to make them feel certain ways and do certain things, okay? The problem with that is, you cannot control your spouse's feelings, okay? As much as you would like to, as much as it would be nice to, you just can't, okay? You can act in ways that are more likely to make your spouse respond in a positive way, right? If you come in screaming at your spouse, you kind of know, like, that's not going to maybe make them feel very loving. Although, when you have this mindset, when your spouse is not acting the way they want, if your wife's not having sex with you and you want, if your husband is not doing the dishes when you want, a lot of times you resort to that, right? You resort to yelling and getting upset because, again, your definition is I'm going to be successful when they do X, Y, and Z. Okay. Or when they feel happy or when they feel love towards me. Okay. So I hope this is starting to connect a little bit and you can see the problem here. You can't control their feelings. Okay. You also cannot control your spouse's actions, right? You can't make them do the dishes. You can't make them be excited to have sex with you. You can be upset and hound them and do all that. But at the end of the day, do you really feel satisfied? Like when they finally sort of give in to your demands about it? Not really, because you know they're doing it not out of love, but out of just like being afraid of you, basically. Being afraid of how you're going to act. The thing is, when this is your intention, right? When your intention is make my spouse feel a certain way, make my spouse act a certain way, it can work for a little bit, right? But eventually you fail. So I'm going to give you a couple examples from my marriage. So for a long time, I would get my wife flowers, about once a week. I'd bring them to her, and for a long time in our marriage, she really liked that. She, got excited. She said thank you. Basically, she was happy, right? And so my intention in doing that was to make her happy. If I'm really honest with myself, my other intention was for her to be, more in the mood for sex, for her to really appreciate and respect me and tell her friends how great I was, okay? If I'm honest with myself, that was really my intention as I did that. So over time, she started to pick up on that. She started to pick up on, okay, these flowers, it's not just because he cares about me, it's because he's expecting something back. And eventually, they kind of lost their appeal because of that. Okay, dishes, same thing, right? So I do the dishes, I'd scrub them, I'd clean them. But again, my intention there was not just to like be a good partner at home and to help create a clean environment. It was so that she could see how great I was, tell me how great I was, again, be in the mood for intimacy, all of that, right? So eventually the charm kind of wore off for her, and she didn't like that as much. Because she could sense, she knew the intention was to make her feel a certain way, right? Or to make her do a certain thing, to give me approval and to, feel loving towards me. Okay. And why was I doing all that? I was doing all that because I wanted basically her to build up my sense of self. Okay. That's the crux of this, right? And this is kind of the core of the problem, that we're relying on our spouse to build up our sense of worth, right? So I call this being either a mosquito or a dictator. So a mosquito, right? They come in, nobody likes them, they bite you, they suck your blood out. So when we are doing nice things for our spouse, but with the intention that they then give us something back, I call that being a mosquito, because we're trying to suck off attention and appreciation and approval from them by doing these seemingly nice things, right? By getting flowers, by doing the dishes, by, buying them a nice gift, right? By doing these love languages. Okay. If we're doing them with that intent to suck them off, eventually our spouse gets sick of it and they kind of drive that away. The other way that we go about this is by being a dictator, what I call a dictator. This is when, you get the flowers or you do the dishes and then your spouse does not respond the way that you're expecting, and then you get upset, right? You yell at them. You say, well, fine, I'm not doing this anymore if you don't appreciate me. Or I do all this and you never seem to care, right? So you're kind of trying to bully them into giving you love and respect and appreciation or sex or whatever it is, okay? And again, what's going to happen there is your spouse, is your husband or wife, are they going to be then suddenly excited and wanting to give you love and appreciation? No, like they might sort of do it. So my wife did this for a while, right? I went around and I was like, I'm a words person, so you need to tell me, write me notes and tell me how great I am. And so like I kind of bullied her into it, and she did it for a while, but like she knew and I knew that it wasn't really that genuine. I had been a dictator about it. I had gotten my way for a little while, but I didn't create any real intimacy in my marriage by doing that or by getting that. So again, my intention in doing these seemingly nice things, buying flowers, doing the dishes, was try to make her feel a certain way or to do a certain thing. Okay. So I could feel better about myself. This is the problem, guys. When you go into marriage and you're thinking, okay, my success is based on how my wife feels and acts, or how my husband feels and acts. So then your intention is to manipulate how they feel and act all the time by being a mosquito or a dictator, by trying to do lots of things so that they give you approval, or by just telling them, hey, like, I'm sick of doing so much for you and getting nothing back. Now you need to do stuff for me. Okay. So then what's the solution in all this? The solution is you need to change your intention. Okay? You need to change why you're doing things. Okay? You want to be very clear on the type of husband or the type of wife that you want to be. Okay? You want to choose to serve your spouse because you want to be that kind of person, not because you want her to act a certain way or do a certain thing, because you want them to be more intimate with you or give you more appreciation, right? But because you just want to be that kind of husband or wife. So if I'm going to buy my wife flowers, instead of giving them to her and then getting mad if she's not really happy and excited about it, which I have 100% done, I give them to her because I just want to show her that I'm thinking about her. Okay. And here's the thing. When I move that intention to my actions and my decisions, when I move my success there, okay, I call this moving the success line, right? So before, success was based on what she did. Now I moved that success definition to what I did. Did I act consistent with the type of husband that I want to be? Okay, so I brought these flowers because I wanted to just show her I cared. Okay, I won. I won because I did it for that reason. Now, no matter what she does, I already won, right? Any positive response I get is just a bonus. Or I do the dishes. Why? Because I want to be the type of husband that is a partner at home, right? That doesn't, rely on my wife or try to make her a maid around the house, right? I want to be just the kind of husband that helps, right? That helps keep the house in an environment where it's clean, where, the Spirit of God can be there, that kind of thing. Okay. So again, I'm still doing the same things, but my intention is different. And the intention is everything, guys. It really is. Okay. So, for the wives, if you're going to, take care of the kids or work and take care of the kids or make dinner at night or whatever, if you're doing that with the intention that your husband says, oh, you're so amazing, or wow, let me rub your feet tonight or whatever, okay, you have lost, right? You've lost because even when you get that response, it's just kind of what you expected, so you didn't really win. And then you really lost if your husband doesn't do that, right? If he doesn't rub your feet, if he doesn't tell you how great you are. Now you basically feel like you did it for nothing. And this is the trap we get in all the time in marriage, is we do these things because we're expecting our spouse to do something back. And so we get resentful. We feel like we're losing in marriage. We feel like we're putting everything in and getting nothing back. Okay. So, and our spouse picks that up. And that's what makes this conflict and this just unhappiness in marriage. Okay. So again, move your intention. What kind of husband do you want to be? What kind of wife do you want to be? I really recommend writing this out, having a really clear vision of what kind of person you want to be in your marriage. How do you want to show up in your marriage? And then when you do that, you won. That's your success. I acted in a way that's consistent with how I want to be. Okay, and you won. And you can feel great about yourself because of that. Okay? Again, you win no matter what your spouse's reaction is. So here's the funny thing about this, right? When you approach your marriage in this way, when you decide the type of husband or type of wife you want to be, and you act consistent with that, okay, without expecting something back, without expecting a reward for being a good husband, or demanding a reward, right, for being a good wife, right? Saying, I did this, now it's your turn to do that, okay? When you just do it because you want to be that kind of guy, you feel good about who you are and how you're acting, no matter what your spouse's response is, right? Again, if I did the dishes just because I want to be that kind of man and that kind of husband, I just feel good about doing that. Okay, my wife might say thanks, she might not, but I know I acted in a way consistent with how I wanted to be, so I win. Here's the funny part. When I do it with that intention, that is when I am most likely, 100% most likely to get attention, appreciation, and affection from my wife. Hands down, no question. It's crazy, right? This is a paradox of marriage and love, right? Is that when you choose to serve your spouse without expecting something back, when you choose to act in this way just because you want to be that kind of guy or that kind of girl, that's when all of this attention, appreciation, all that is going to come. And it's going to come without you demanding it and without you asking for it. Okay. It is crazy, but this is what I've seen in my marriage. This is what I've seen with other marriages, other people I've helped. Okay. It's a miracle, right? Because you're not that mosquito or dictator anymore, right? You feel good about who you are. And that is attractive. That's attractive to your wife. That's attractive to your husband. Okay. And they don't feel that pressure of you trying to control their thoughts and emotions and actions, right? And so now they can just say, wow, my husband is amazing. Look at all this they did. Or wow, my wife is so great. Look at all this stuff she did. And they'll give you that appreciation, and that's just a bonus, and it feels great. Okay? So, you get it when you don't need it. It's kind of a funny thing, right? You get that attention, appreciation, affection when you don't need it. It's like a bank loan, right? A lot of times people say you get the loan when you don't need it, right? You get that attention, appreciation, affection when you don't need it so much from your spouse. Okay. So then the question becomes like, how do you not need your spouse so much? Okay. I think one of the biggest ways to not depend on your spouse for your self-worth is to remember that you have infinite worth and infinite potential no matter what you do or don't do. Okay. So if you yelled at your wife, okay, you still have the same worth. If you did something really nice for your wife, if you did the dishes, you still have the same worth. Okay, your worth does not change. It's infinite. Okay, infinity minus 100 is still infinity, right? Get me? Infinite, it's kind of a difficult concept to grasp, but just remember, like your worth, your value as a person, it's still there, no matter what you do or don't do. Personally, I base that in knowing that I am a son of God, right? And because of that, I have this infinite inherent worth and infinite potential, right? I have infinite, both of those things as a son of God. If you don't believe in God, just knowing that you have that worth as a human being, right? That it doesn't change, that it's there. Just reminding yourself of that, okay? I like to say you can't hate yourself into becoming a better person. A lot of people try that. I tried it for a long time, saying, okay, I'm bad at this, let me get better. And then finally I'll feel good about who I am, right? If I finally get to this level of success, I'll feel good about who I am. Unfortunately, it doesn't end that way. That's why some people, when they finally get to whatever their goal was, I was just watching this thing about Taylor Swift, and she had won Grammy for Best Album 2 years in a row. And she says, I got to the top of that mountain, and I was looking around and saying, is this it? What's next? Because she was basing her worth on accomplishing that. And then she got there and things weren't as different as she thought. It's still about 50-50 no matter what, right? It's about 50% good, about 50% bad. So you can't hate yourself into becoming a better person. You can't hate yourself into becoming a better husband. You can't hate yourself into being thinner or stronger or fitter or whatever. Okay. It kind of works, but if you're doing it because you think when you get there, you're going to finally feel good about who you are, unfortunately, that's not how it works. Okay. So just remember, you have infinite worth and potential right now. No matter how good or bad of a husband or wife you are, your worth does not change. Okay. So just remember that. Keep that in mind. So the next thing you do, right, is you set a course for your life, right? You remember you have infinite worth and potential, but then you say, hey, I have infinite worth, but also I have infinite potential. So let me work towards that. Not with the idea that when I reach a certain point, I'll finally be worthy or I'll finally be good enough, right? Just because, hey, like I have infinite worth and I want to get out there and contribute what I can to the world and to my family. That's who I want to be, right? So you set a course for that. You make it very clear. You write it out. You say, this is the type of husband, this is the type of wife I want to be. Then you measure yourself against that. I recommend in the morning, and this is what I do myself, in the morning I kind of think about what kind of person do I want to be across various different areas, but especially what kind of husband do I want to be. And then at night, I kind of click through and I say, okay, like how well did I do? How well did I stay on course? Stephen Covey talks about how a plane, when it flies, it's actually off course most of the time. And it's just those little corrections that get it to its correct destination. So you write out, what's my destination? What kind of husband do I want to be? What kind of wife do I want to be? And then each day you kind of say, okay, like how well did I do? Right? So you set that course and you live towards it and you keep working towards it. Not because you think you'll finally be good enough when you get there, but because you have that potential in you and you want to work towards it. Okay? So those are the two big keys of not needing your spouse. To remember you have infinite worth, and then to just say, this is the kind of husband I want to be, and work towards that. Because again, that's when you move that success to the right place. You move success to your actions and your thoughts and your behaviors. Okay. So you say, hey, I did the dishes today. Great. That's the kind of husband I want to be. I feel good about that. Because then you've won right there. And then that's when also you're most likely to get all of that stuff that you were wanting from your spouse. So you just live consistent to that type of spouse that you want to be. That's where the win is. That's where you feel good about yourself. Okay? Builds up your sense of self-esteem, right? Your worth doesn't change, but your self-esteem, it's going to build up as you continue to work towards that potential, as you continue to see the kind of person you can be and work towards it, right? That just builds up your confidence. So when you do that, right, you say, hey, I won because I did the dishes, because I want to be that kind of husband. You don't need that attention and affection and all that back. Okay? And again, that's when you're most likely to get it. When you don't need it, that's when you're most likely to get it. How do you not need it? You don't need it by realizing that your success is just by acting in the way that you want to act, by being the type of husband or the type of wife that you want to be. All right, guys. So go out, be successful in your marriage. And remember, success in your marriage is acting like the type of husband or the type of wife that you want to be. Have a great day.